Good morning and good afternoon. Welcome to the 2021 Intersect International Debate Competition Final from Elite International School. Greetings to everyone and a special thank you to the jury that will be judging this long-awaited final. Ms. Monica Segovia, Vice President from the IES institution, and Mr. Daryl Lotrin, Chief Academic Director from the IES institution. After a challenging classificatory round, the teams that we will be facing off during this final are SEC Budapest and SEC St. John's. Congratulations to both teams. Now we will draw which position will be defended by each team. Captains from each team. Do you allow the other team to choose? Does anyone allow the other team to choose?
We will let the other team choose.
Excuse me?
We will let the other team choose.
Yes, so do you allow Budapest team to choose first?
Yes, we do.
Captain from the Budapest team, which envelope do you choose?
The right one.
They have letters on them.
All right. All right. Oh, A.
A. Budapest will be defending affirmative, meaning they are in favor of prioritizing the economy. St. John's will be defending negative, meaning they are against prioritizing the economy. Let me remind you of the question. In the current pandemic situation, should the economy be prioritized over health? We shall start. Good luck to all of you and may the best team win. When the first speaker is ready, give us a sign and we will start the timer.
The affirmative team starts, right?
Excuse me?
The affirmative team starts, right?
Yes.
All right. All right. So the definition of health in modern society is not just physical health, meaning that they're free from disease, but it is also monetary. Being able to support yourself in the modern climate and modern economy is just as important as physical health. And if not good enough, low monetary health can also affect your physical health. Right now, because of the current situation, unemployment and poverty are at an all-time high. And because of this has affected the lives of basically everyone across the world. One day, Corona will be gone, however. One day, this will all be over and most people will be vaccinated. However, the economy of most countries will remain. Prioritizing something long-term is way more important than prioritizing the short term. Therefore, right now, we need to focus as much on the economy as possible. The point of this scheme is when it says economy and monetary gain is not money. We want people and citizens of all countries to have jobs and to be at lower risk of being impoverished. We know we cannot have perfect societies and perfect countries where everybody is perfectly endowed with money and everyone has a job, but we want the focus to be on that right now. Adding on, the reason why this is our point is because we want people to be healthy. Without money, people cannot afford healthcare. A lot of people still can't even afford food. So by focusing on the economy, we're also focusing on health, which is priority number one, no matter what. However, we think that with economic means, we can support it. Adding on, the strategy of most first world countries, like Northern and Western Europe and the United States, and a large part of North America as well, was to just shut down the economy and prioritize health. However, most countries across the world cannot afford this because of poverty and because of inherently weak economies. So, as an example also of why we should prioritize the economy, starvation kills 9 million people every year so far. And if we look at current Corona deaths, Corona has killed just 1/3 in almost a year and a half, as much as starvation kills in a single year. Adding on, the UN thinks that because of broken economies and broken supply lines, the number is expected to double. So this year, we may have 18 million people starved. 9 million of those directly being because of Corona. If we focus on health and we shut down countries and economies, then not only will we have more people dead than with Corona, but it is just logically the incorrect thing to do. If the team of health wants as little people dead as possible, they need to prioritize the economy as well. Yeah. So again, this team wants people healthy. However, we think that with economic means, it may be the best. Adding on, just saying if the opposite team even mentions that they just want to put money into healthcare, inherently that has its flaws as well. In the country of origin of this team, as an example, healthcare corruption is highly present. And well, yeah, it is. If a country decides to focus on health, it will also support corruption in a way. Not saying it inherently will, however, it will definitely affect it as well. And again, to minimize deaths, in most countries, open economies, and we need to start trading, and we need to focus on jobs and on decreasing poverty. Plus, countries with strong economies can support countries with weak economies, and also help in an international alliance. They could help each other and minimize death across the world. So this is why this team believes that we should focus on the economy and not health.
You may start the timer. It is health that is the real wealth and not pieces of gold and silver, Gandhi. In 1946, the World Health Organization defined health as a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being, and not merely the absence of disease or infirmity. The health of a country is absolutely essential for it to function, because without a body politic, both mentally and physically fit, the economy will be rendered entirely useless. Physical health is critical. Economic historians have recorded that at least 1/3 of all GDP per capita growth in developed countries can be attributed to an improved quality of health. It cannot just be a coincidence that for a country to develop, they need healthy inhabitants. Due to neglect health to favour the economy will only cause it to collapse completely. Also, for a healthy population, they must be mentally fit and happy. People are much less likely to return to work. People are much less likely to return to work. People are much less likely to return to work if they have an increased sense of worthlessness and unimportance, as evidence from the Mental Health Foundation suggests that 12.7% of all sickness absence days in the UK can be attributed to mental health conditions. These issues have been pushed onto them by politicians who favour money in their own pocket over humanity. A prime example being Brazil and the president's reluctance to lock down despite health experts' advice, leading them to have the second most COVID deaths in the world in May 2021, according to Statistica. It is irresponsible to allow people in power to put a price on human life after so many people have lost so much. The World Health Organization reported that almost 1/4 of all people have increased feelings of loneliness, leading to 22% of people turning to alcohol for comfort. Even more so, the BBC has reported a 5.1% increase in probable mental health issues in children aged 5 to 16 from 2017 to today. Suicide has become a much more open conversation due to the pandemic, with many more people struggling with their mental health, and quite frankly, dead people cannot work or contribute to the economy. Moreover, the virus is constantly mutating, so healthcare is constantly having to adapt to keep up with it. However, the economy has been around since before 12,000 BC. It is constant. Therefore, lacking focus on it now shouldn't create severe consequences long term, as seen by the Great Recession in the late 2000s, which affected Bulgaria, Romania, Turkey rather severely. The World Bank now classifies Bulgaria as an upper middle income nation. It is vital that we favour health so it doesn't spiral into a situation that is impossible to solve. Global healthcare institutes are already struggling to keep up with the amount of mutations forming, and soon the political and societal motivation directed towards healthcare will dwindle because there is no end in sight. Nations must prioritise funding schemes that deal with healthcare because the economy can be boosted easily, as seen by the Eat Out to Help Out scheme. It is also vital to mention that countries that have dealt with coronavirus best have been those in Asia that suffered terribly from SARS epidemic from 2002 to 2004. Taiwan, for example, only had 1,110 cases and 12 deaths. To put this into perspective, Hungary's population is 9.64 million, but has had over 28,000 COVID-related deaths. So Taiwan favours health and imposed strict legislations and an open policy, listening to citizens' concerns. The government had a quarantine system for those entering the country and had an effective tracking system. They also used incentives by paying those quarantining £27 a day, but fining them over 1,000 times more if regulations were contravened. Taiwan has now been COVID-free for over 253 days.
Did the timer start yet? Judges? Did the timer start yet?
Both should actually.
When you're ready, give us a sign again and we will restart.
Okay, you may start. Right. First of all, I would like to rebuttal to what the previous speaker has said. So you have put an emphasis on Taiwan and mental health. Now, first, speaking of mental health, now it is very important that we focus on all matter of it and all areas of healthcare. However, during this pandemic, the pandemic should also be number one priority because that is what the number one healthcare concern of countries all over the world. Second of all, you mentioned a lot about Taiwan and its progress. However, and that is great. We wish nothing but kudos to Taiwan. However, we have to remember that this pandemic has affected, developing countries the most, including Middle Eastern countries and South American countries. Now, first of all, I'd like to go back to defining how the economy and the healthcare and public health is linked. The economy is the state of a country or a region in terms of production and consumption of goods and services. Now, because they are inevitably linked, if you help the other, you in a way help the other as well. And if you focus on the economy, not only are you going to make sure that you have enough funds to have a healthy healthcare, which in turn will lead to a lot of consumers and a lot of producers, but it will also lead to a bigger boost in the economy. So that is why, because if you focus on the economy, it will inevitably lead to a much healthier population. Furthermore, it is important that we focus on the economy because an economy is a long-term process. It is it's a long-term process in terms of by focusing on it, we will ensure progress for the future. And by doing that, you have to remember that vaccines take a long time.
There is a question. When you're ready, you may answer it.
I'll just finish the sentence. Vaccines take a long time to develop, and as a result, we need to think in long terms, not just short terms. Yes, I'll take the question.
So you said that the economy is focusing on the long-term goal, but what do you believe? What would the point of the economy be if you can't help out in the short term? Because people are dying. There is no point. Is there really a point to the economy if people are dying? How is that the priority?
I mean, of course, there's a point of the economy because the economy doesn't just encompass money and GDP and all that stuff. It encompasses jobs. It encompasses all public institutions, including public healthcare. By focusing on that, you will inevitably lead into a decline in jobs and also hunger. And I point out that if in most developing countries they're having a huge number of people who lost jobs, and not just developed countries, developing countries, but developed as well, including the United States. Look at the huge amount of homelessness and the hunger and crime that has risen during this pandemic. And that leads me to the conclusion of this. Thank you.
We can't see the timer.
We cannot see the timer, so I don't know if I ran out. I probably did, but
Yes, you ran out of time and you went 10 seconds, more than 10 seconds over. So you have your first warning. There is no point reduction at this point, but remember during the course of the debate, if another team member has another warning, you will get a 5-point reduction.
Just gonna check the timer.
Okay, you can start the timer.
Okay, now it's unmuted now.
It is hard to talk about a middle ground for something that is a fundamental right. This quote was said by Dr. Terry Reynolds, a scientist for the Department for Management of Non-Communicable Diseases, Disability, Violence and Injury Prevention at the World Health Organization. Healthcare is a fundamental right, and along with this comes vaccines, which make people feel more confident to return to society and the economy. Globally, 1.18 billion vaccines have been given, and in the UK, COVID infections have dropped by 65% after people started receiving their first COVID vaccine. This is reflected.
We have a question. Sorry. It seems raising our hand isn't enough to see us, but we were raising our hands for a minute. It's fine. Whatever. May I ask a question?
Yes.
All right. So you say healthcare and health is a fundamental human right. However, in most countries, that's not the biggest issue. It's basic stuff such as food, water, and this starvation. Which would you say is more important? Focusing on a disease or focusing on staying alive for most countries?
Well, surely food, water, the basic essentials are healthcare, aren't they? It's not healthcare or food. They are one and the same. You can't be healthy without food, but you can't function without healthcare either. And it's also important to, in this circumstance, discuss politics, because many politicians care much more about their popularity ratings than anything else. And by favouring healthcare, ratings have actually risen. For example, throughout the pandemic, Boris Johnson became increasingly unpopular due to his inability to favour health. But his approval ratings dropped to 38% compared to Jacinda Ardern, the New Zealand Prime Minister, who favoured health, at over 50%. By buying vaccines and supplying them in vast quantities, his approval rose significantly. And also, if you're wanting to discuss the economy, surely, if your country is at the forefront of developing a vaccine, like England with Oxford AstraZeneca, the USA with Moderna, and Germany with Pfizer, money will be pumped back into the economy. Pfizer is predicted to earn between 15 and 30 billion from COVID vaccines alone. Every country has scrambled for vaccines and will desperately pay anything that is needed. The UK has paid 2.9 billion just to make sure that everyone in the UK can be safe. Surely, by prioritising health, you can see the benefits it creates for the world's finance, both in the short and long term, and how unnecessary it feels to debate a fundamental human right against money. Thank you.
Come, Jim. Come, I cannot see the timer. Because I didn't bring my glasses.
I'll not. I'll do it from here. One is 30 seconds, two is at 10 seconds.
So it's 1 3 seconds.
30? This is 10 seconds, like say your final seconds. All right.
10 seconds left.
Yeah, 10 seconds left. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Do you wish to begin the timer? Timer?
Question. Is it, do you have a question about the time or not?
No, it's just we have a technical problem that we cannot see the timer after the opposite team has done talking, and Yeah.
So one of the delegates, me, I'm going to knock and signal to my partners whenever the timer is at just so we get some form of communication.
Right now, can you see the timer?
Yes, right now, yes.
Okay, so start your intervention when you're ready.
I would. Okay, so I'm ready. Okay, so you always focus on prioritizing health. Yeah, you prioritize health. Then what? What happens? What if there's another pandemic occurs? Yeah, because the next pandemic will only occur sooner but no later, according to scholars in Duke University. Yeah, so what will you do if a pandemic occurs sooner, within 100 years? And then, do you still naively believe that the next pandemic will only occur 100 years later? That's nonsense. And I would like to give an example showing the impact of prioritizing the health, because I know that there's a huge anti-lockdown in London. Why? Because of the strict lockdown, which is the result of prioritizing health. Yeah, we can notice that a strict lockdown will result in more people getting infected, which is even worse. And is that what you want? Is that what you want? So here's my question. So what I mean is that we need to focus on economy, not health. Thank you. Oh, okay. So I would like to, so during the lockdown, more people will get infected. That's my point. Thank you.
You're gonna go with the other table. He's not. George is gonna go with the other table.
You can start the timer. In your first speech, you mentioned that having a stable economy improves. Oh, 1 minute, sorry. Whilst the economy does, we can't abandon the economy in favour of health, as our economy funds healthcare. In response, we would say that whilst the economy does fund health services, the government is obliged to protect its citizens in the democratic field, according to the Economic Forum. Are you suggesting that we preserve their job, you preserve their jobs rather than the person themselves? What good is an empty space in the economy? When looking at a poll conducted by YouGov, which specialises in market research, therefore gaining the best interest of 82% of consumers, 82% of people opted for health and well-being during the COVID crisis, with only a small minority insisting on economy. Further upon this point, when the second was asked concerning what should be prioritised after the pandemic, 61% still wanted social and health to be prioritised. Thank you.
Yeah, it's not a share.
So one of is.
One of you said the second two. Okay,
Signal to the judges that, wait, are we unmuted?
No, we are unmuted now.
All right, so.
we can't see the timer yet. It's not on the screen.
The judges please say something so that our screen goes back.
Pin, finally. Oh my God.
Over
Okay.
Could you please start the timer? So, as your previous speaker had mentioned, we need a wealthy economy for a good health system. How are underdeveloped countries supposed to do that? Because underdeveloped countries don't have the necessities, like the money to do these things. And what will this result in? This will result in underdeveloped countries becoming going into an even worse situation after the pandemic is done. And the thing is, you know, this research that you were talking about, or the surveys, this wasn't done by economists. This was done by the majority of people. They don't know. They never studied this. And the thing is, you know, I would like to question, you know, how are countries supposed to buy vaccines without money? Because vaccines take money to develop it. You know, how are we supposed to focus on health if we don't have the money to support this healthcare system or this healthcare infrastructure? And the thing is, you know, after we do get the vaccines and after they are developed, what are we going to do? Because we won't have any money left. You know, there was recessions before, after pandemics, such as the food pandemic, and they only got a 1% rise the next year, which is absolutely nothing to a country's economy. The thing is, we need to focus on the economy, because after we get out of this pandemic situation, it's going to affect so many countries that we're not looking at. Our major countries like America or England, yes, they might have the money to support it, but are other countries going to have the money? Thank
you. This is we are being muted. Oh, then give us please.
Okay. In your first, can you start the timer, please? In your first speech, we picked up on your point about how having a stable economy improves social well-being, and that as an economy is improved, people's social well-being is improved. But in response, we would say that whilst you are initially manipulating the economy, is it not the mental health of the people that you are prioritising in the long term? According to Work Insight, 1 in 8 people are unhappy in the workplace. It's undeniable that workplaces have changed a lot, but companies such as the National Trust have downsized to assure and solidify the remaining employees of their jobs and stability within the company. However, those made redundant, which was over 1,300 people, plunge into greater uncertainty. Focusing on the workplace and making it more stable will result in more instability in the lives of the released employees. This raises unemployment rates without stable income. Without stable income, the country of the increased redundancy will in turn have a lower GDP. This relationship is known as Occam's law and is stated within the Economic Research Federal Reserve Bank of St. Louis. Thank you.
Yeah, you may start the timer. So I understand what you have been saying, and you have been answering your questions. And if I'm correct, then I didn't hear you asking me a question, so I will be talking and I will be asking you a question. So a biological outbreak takes a lot of time to develop. Vaccines, they don't grow on trees, and they may take years to develop. And you can't rush any of this by prioritizing health. Meanwhile, due to the weak economy and the broken supply chains caused by the pandemic, many people are suffering from hunger, especially in developing countries such as Lebanon. It can be dealt with immediately by prioritizing the economy. And when we say dealing with it, we don't mean that we completely make hunger disappear, but at least we can deal with some of the hungry families. And so I would like to ask you a question. since you are saying that health should be prioritized over the economy, then can you tell me how exactly would you prioritize health? Because vaccines may take years to develop, just like I mentioned. And if like in this year that you are developing the vaccine, like many people are dying. Like my teammates who have mentioned that millions of people are dying from hunger each year. So how would you exactly deal with that by prioritizing health? And also, you mentioned a lot about healthcare, but what is healthcare dependent on? It's dependent on the economy of the country. Without the economy, there will be no healthcare. Thank you.
You can start the timer. Well, what you're saying is almost useless, because the economy is useless without healthy people, and feeding hungry people is not the topic. And if your country is at the forefront of developing a vaccine, they will be able to pump money back into the economy. And once your country has vaccinated everyone, the same thing can happen. The economy will not function properly if mental health is not improved. As you said in your second speech, mental health has dropped significantly. But the economy will not function properly if mental health is not improved. People will have no motivation to return to work due to increased feelings of hopelessness and loneliness. The WHO reported that almost 1/4 of people in the UK reported increased feelings of loneliness during the lockdowns. This has led to 22% of people turning to alcohol for stress relief, and 46% of people turning to controlling their food intake, either restricting or eating too much. In 2017, 10.9% of children aged 5 to 16 had probable mental health issues, compared to today's 16%. Thank you.
Okay. Oh, has the time already begun? Okay, you may start the timer. So first, I heard you said something about hunger not being the topic. Well, I would like to say that hunger is an economic problem, and our debate topic is whether to prioritize the economy over health or prioritize health over economy. So if we prioritize health over economy, then hunger becomes a problem, and it should be something that we're discussing here. Okay, so you also mentioned that at the forefront of the vaccine production, well, how many countries that? I can list them in seconds. Okay, so first I will just like to briefly define what developed country is. So developed countries are countries with a human development index greater or equal to 0.9. And so these countries include like countries like USA, Canada, the UK, Germany, France, etc. Okay, and then according to Wikipedia's list of countries, of these countries by HDI and list of countries by population, the total population of the developed countries is only about 8% of the total world's population. population. And for now, we've been only talking about the 8% of the population because they're on the forefront of the development of the vaccine. However, what about the other 92%? It's true that the developed countries are doing great by prioritizing health, but what about the 92% of the population that does not have the luxury to do that? Okay, Dr. Mike Ryan from the World Health Organization said that 85% of the vaccines are going to the developed countries. That means only 15% of the vaccines are going to the developing countries, which is not, I'm sure if you know math, then you'll know that that's definitely not enough. Developed countries, they don't have the luxury to prioritize their health over their economy because their economy is a bigger problem that they have to deal with, and that is a long-term problem. It's not only from 2020; it's a problem that they have been dealing with for a long time. People have been dying from hunger every year, and my teammates have talked about the statistics. And dying from hunger is not the same as COVID-19. COVID-19 ends, but hunger doesn't end. And we are all international students, so I believe that all of us have at least a little bit of financial background. For us, health should obviously be prioritized because money is not a big problem for us. But that's not the case with low-income families. When it comes to the matter such as this one that involves the entire country, we have to consider everyone, including the low-income families and the families that are suffering from hunger. By prioritizing the economy, we can take immediate actions. We can help not all, but some of the families. Well, if we prioritize health, no immediate actions can be taken because vaccines take too much time to develop, and we don't have the technology yet to prevent someone from dying. And so, thank you, judges, for the attention. And yes, so this is my speech. Thank you. You did me. I thought there was a lot of timer.
The timer stopped accidentally, but there is no warning for time for the Budapest team.
You can start the timer. First of all, I want to say in your last final statement that technically you used unreliable sources in Wikipedia, as anybody can change those. And also, you introduced new information, which technically wasn't supposed to be allowed in the final statement. Now going on to my final statement, I'd like to thank both contributors to today's debate. Quite rightly have come up with some excellent arguments to support their respective propositions. For example, the quote, "It is health that is real wealth, and not pieces of gold and silver," Gandhi. In 1964, the World Health Organization defined health as a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being, and not merely the absence of disease or infirmity. This clearly backs up our argument, as the health of a country is absolutely essential for it to work, as without a functioning body politic, both mentally and physically fit, the economy becomes entirely useless. Although we have collected these statistics today, which favour prioritising health during the current pandemic, each country accumulates their statistics differently, making it impossible to compare them and extrapolating clear arguments as a result of looking at that data. Furthermore, regardless of how important a good economy and good health are, in order to achieve them, you need them both to be prioritised. The topic we've been given today is a forced dichotomy. In other words, in order to have one, you have to have the other. To achieve a good economy, you need to have a good society with good health. And in order to have good health, you need to have a strong economy. It's like a seesaw. If you have a bigger weight on one side, the lighter side shoots up. To attain an adequate health and economy, each country's politicians must focus equally on both. The issue has been during the pandemic that many politicians and political parties have dealt with this issue in isolation and not learning from each other's mistakes. For example, in the UK, COVID has appeared in Europe 3 or 4 weeks before entering our shores, and yet we did not learn from the mistakes they made, nor heed their warnings as to what might happen when COVID first became a serious problem. Also, many politicians have been more concerned about their personal ratings and popularity than dealing with the reality they've confronted and have been told about by medical experts.
As a result, political decisions have often been delayed, badly thought through, resulting in catastrophic death rates and harm within society. Where countries have been particularly successful with the pandemic, leaders have made the right decisions at the right time, regardless of their popularity, thinking of long-term health consequences of both their economic and individuals within it. The propositions that we've been given today invites us to take one side or another to believe in binary opposites, but life is often much more nuanced and complicated, and in fact, any nation's health is a holistic combination of the physical, emotional, mental, and economic makeup of society. Thank you.
That concludes our debate. Thank you, SEC Budapest and St. Joe's School for your participation in this thrilling final. And thank you to both judges, Ms. Monica Segovia, Vice President of the IES Institution, Mr. Darren Lotrin, Chief Academic Director of the IES Institution. Thank you. The results will be announced shortly this Friday during the closing ceremony. Good luck and congratulations for your outstanding interventions. Thank you for participating in the 2021 Intersect Virtual Debate Competition, and thank you to the SEC IES Institution for this memorable opportunity.
Thank you very much to both teams for your presentations. I think both of the teams were very prepared, and it was great and very enjoyable. So good luck to both, and on Friday you will learn who won.
Yes, great job to both teams. Again, very well prepared and good arguments. So it's going to be pretty close, I'm certain, and of course a very hot topic. And it's fantastic to see that you know, whether you've been pro or for and what your personal beliefs are, that you've been able to identify some real issues that we're facing today. And I hope that your education is going to allow you guys to be the leaders in the future that make those correct decisions based on evidence and not popularity. So well done, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes our debate.